Serious women who wanted an abortion, but couldn't obtain one for whatever reason. What is your life like now? Fuck it. No throwaway. I was a stupid 15-year-old and didn't think that I would get pregnant. It didn't help that the guy I was an abusive, manipulative, horrible human being. He didn't want to use condoms, so we didn't. He wanted to keep the baby, and when I said I didn't, he beat the shit out of me for considering ending something that was his. Luckily his mother found out and told him she would kick him out and stop supporting him, so he did a 180 and wanted me to get rid of it, but by that time it was too late. So I gave birth to a healthy baby boy and gave him straight into the arms of a wonderful couple who love him more than words can say. I told them I didn't want any pictures or updates. I just wanted to make sure that he was loved and that I hoped he would be nothing like his parents. My life now is pretty good. I don't regret for 1 second giving him away, and most days honestly don't even think about him anymore. But sometimes it comes up out of nowhere and I do cry. I thought about trying to see how he is doing, but he will be 13 now and that's a hard enough time of life that it is. I have decided that I'm not going to go looking for him, but he calls me, I'll answer. It took a long time for me to finally get the appointment set up at the hospital. The day finally comes, and I'm sitting in the room getting my vitals done, and the nurse crossed the line. I felt like total shit already and kept crying because it wasn't something I wanted to do, but I knew I wasn't in the position to raise another child by myself. The nurse kept asking me about the unborn child, like, do I hope for a boy or girl? If I could name it, what would I pick? I ran out of the room in tears and cried in my car for about an hour before I finally pulled out of the parking lot. I called different adoption agencies and finally found one that I was comfortable with. I was able to pick out an amazing couple. They supported me through the rest of the pregnancy. Since giving my child up for adoption, I've gotten married and had a child with my now late husband. I have an amazing job, about to go back to school for my MBA, and buy my first house. It is an open adoption, and I do weekly Skype calls with my daughter and her parents. She was at my wedding and is still a major part of my life. I have no regrets, and going through with the adoption has been the hardest thing I've ever done, but I wouldn't change anything. My husband and I have a very beautiful 5-year-old. We love her tremendously. We wanted to abort her. We weren't able to do that. I'm not going to share my country, my daughter's condition, or any detail like that, because this is not about my country or its abortion policies, and I don't want to discuss those. I just want to share how I feel. We were quite happily married when she announced of her plans to enter this world. Since I'm using an throwaway account, I can speak openly and say that taking that pregnancy test was the most soul-crushing panic I've ever experienced. We didn't want children. We never planned for children. We had many reasons, but to put it shortly, neither of us thought we were fit enough to be parents. Ever since we had dated for 2 weeks, my husband confessed how he wanted to stay child-free, and after thinking a while I understood it was exactly what I wanted too. However, when I told him, he was over the moon. She is his princess. She is the biggest daddy's girl in this planet. On top of our clear desire for a certain kind of life, we had a very hard life situation that unfortunately we are still battling to this day. Actually, every day is even harder now. I'm not going to go to details, but financial problems, having some troubles at our cross-cultural marriage, even though the foundation was very strong. A very sick relative we are responsible of, health conditions, and struggling with my husband's condition and unemployment were enough to make me go grey in my 30s. Adding a baby to a mix that is nothing but a fairy tale life is. It is hard. Every day I'm happy to see her, and I have experienced the most wonderful feelings of love, protective instinct, and joy I didn't know existed before I had children, but her lives are very hard. I'm responsible of taking care of her. Unfortunately, due to reasons that are not my husband's fault, all he can do with her is play and engage with her with ways that don't recommend physical strength. I'm exhausted every day, all day. It sounds horrible, but I've lost my will to live. I don't feel like I have a life of my own anymore. I'm nothing but a shell trying to keep us all together. I have nothing to myself. I don't have ambitions or dreams for the future other than making a good life for her. The best part of my day is when I go to bed and have a few hours of sweet nothingness where no one demands or wants anything of me. I battle suicidal thoughts every day. I'm very barely keeping our heads above the water. Actually, even that is quite optimistic. However, will never hurt myself, and I want to strongly believe there is hope in the future. It has already gotten a lot better now that she is growing up. The first year of her life was so hard. One day, after I had an hour of free time, I went to the rooftop. I never jumped, but it wasn't far away. I don't blame myself for that moment, since the sleep deprivation and combination of stress was so bad. I can honestly say I don't have almost any memories of her first 2 years. So that's my story. Thank you for reading. We were 19 and had just moved into our new studio after being kicked out of our old one very short notice, which cost us all the money we had, and it was my work's off season, so we had no money at all. We could pay rent and our car insurance, but were struggling to feed ourselves on maybe $4 a week and any game we could poach. It is a $40 round trip to drive to the nearest Planned Parenthood, so by the time we were able to save enough quarters to get there, it was a month too late. Now we have a wonderful 1-year-old son who we love dearly, but it still makes me so angry at how unfair the whole situation was and how I should not have been forced to have him. I swear I don't care if I don't even know who you are. If you need to go to Planned Parenthood, I will find a way to get you there, because no one should ever be forced to have a child because they literally can't get to a clinic. I wanted to get an abortion. I didn't think I would be a good mother. I have a horrid temper I got from my father, and I was told constantly by family members that I'm an uncaring bitch. So I worried if I had a child they would feel unloved, as I felt, because of my temper and my supposed inability to care for others. Well, I couldn't go through with it because 1. I was scared of the pain. Silly, I know, because childbirth, oof. 2. The procedure as described to me made me very uncomfortable. 3. I was on my parents' insurance and was terrified they'd find out. And the most important reason is the father/my husband. To be clear, he wanted me to get an abortion, but he is such an amazing person and there is so much goodness in him that I couldn't destroy something that was part him. If anyone else had been the father, I believe I would have gotten the abortion. Well, my daughter is 5 now, and she is the best thing to happen to me. She is so much like me, but also so much better. Since she was born, I have made huge strides in managing my temper. It isn't gone completely, but it is under much better control. I also realized that I'm not an unfeeling bitch, like I was told. I care deeply and completely for those I love, but I do not visibly react to things. For example, if someone tells me any kind of news, I process it and may think, oh, that is great, or oh shit, that sucks, but I will rarely ever jump up and down or cry. Yes, I would have had less responsibilities without my daughter. Yes, I would have more freedom without my daughter. But I wouldn't be as good of a person if it wasn't for her. I would have had very little reason to make the efforts I have to change and grow as a person. I had her very young, and I do not encourage anyone to do what I did. It is hard, and most people are not emotionally or financially ready to be a parent at 20. But I lucked out with an amazing kid who has been relatively easy, and an amazing partner who has gone above and beyond what I asked of him. I told him, since he wanted the abortion and I couldn't, he could walk away, and I wouldn't blame him. Not only did he stay, but seriously, he's been the most amazing person ever, and I would not have survived all the craziness that has happened without him. I'm a little late commenting, but I couldn't decide whether or not I should. I have a lot of friends and family on Reddit that could probably connect the dots and identify me, even with a throwaway. But I decided I shouldn't be embarrassed. Anyway, my boyfriend and I had just moved from our small hometown to Southern California. Life was amazing. We spent days off at the beach, went out dancing at fancy clubs in La, regularly went to Vegas just because we could. We were happy together and enjoying our 20s. I was on the pill, but a little spermy slipped through the cracks, and I got pregnant. I knew that if we were going to keep it, we would have to move back home, since we didn't really know anyone there, and thought we would need our families for support. We talked about it, and talked about it, until we were blue in the face. I was leaning towards abortion, but we couldn't come to a mutual decision, so I just sort of ended up just staying pregnant. We packed up all our belongings in the back of our convertible Eclipse, except for the furniture that we left with our roommate, and drove back home. We had to start entirely from scratch. We lived with his parents for a couple months, until we found an apartment. I had to take a job I hate to support us. Now my daughter is about 8 months old. I love her more than anything. She's honestly probably the cutest thing I've ever seen. She's been diagnosed with a killer cutaneous albinism and is legally blind. That was hard to come to terms with, but I do think she'll do just fine. She's smart as a whip and is ahead of her peers in most developmental areas. I also really struggled with my mental health postpartum, but I've been seeing a therapist and am doing better on that front. I'll admit that I'm a little bored with my life. For the first time, I'm working a 9-to-5 job and stuck in a cubicle all day. I do the same thing day after day, and it's wearing on me. I used to have a job I looked forward to going to every day, but I couldn't afford to work there anymore. I do get anxious when we talk about our friends back in California, or the adventures we used to have. I regret leaving California. Our families haven't actually been very helpful. If anything, they just add more stress to our situation. They're great people. Babies just cause everyone to lose their fucking minds. I still love my boyfriend very much, but our relationship isn't as fun as it used to be. We used to have so much fun together, even if we were just sitting on the couch watching a movie. Now we are both so tired all the time. Overall, I don't think I regret having a baby, but I do really miss the way things used to be. My crazy ex got me pregnant. On purpose. My mother was forcing me to keep it, because she loved that guy. He manipulated her beyond belief. Anyways, I scheduled an abortion, did blood work. He said he would take me and be my alibi. It's the least he could do, and he didn't think I'd get pregnant, and it was all his fault. It was easier to believe this bullshit than to accept that he had raped me and got me pregnant on purpose. My alibi was I would go to the neighboring city with him for a weekend getaway, and I would miscarry. But I'd really get the abortion and stay at a friend's place. He ratted me out. She said if I did it, my son and I would be kicked out. I had just lost my job, so I was fucked, or at least as a scared 19-year-old I thought I was fucked. I kept my son. My life. It's fucking awesome. My son? He's fucking awesome. He hates his dad. He never visits him, or at least refuses to when his dad tries. He screams and kicks and cries. He's 7, so I never force him. My husband took me and my kids on. 2 kids, 2 different dads and all. We also had 2 of our own together. My husband gave his last name to my boys. Both boys call him dad. First son hasn't seen his dad in years and is 10. I met my now husband from my crazy ex. I never would have met my husband otherwise. Surprisingly well. I became pregnant at 12 and ran away from home. I was lucky enough to find a kind older woman who helped me with everything I needed. I went to high school, and at nights we would study for my classes together. I'd read aloud to her and tried to spend as much time as I could with her. In college, I built my schedule around being able to be around when my daughter wasn't in school. I didn't know it was an option back then, but looking back on it, I wish I could have gotten one. I love my daughter with every part of me, but there are days I want to be free, have fun or go out and do stupid things. She's a great kid, but I wish I didn't have to raise her and instead live my life for me. I was in an abusive relationship and I knew that my BF at the time was too bad with money to have a baby with. I got pregnant with him and I said I wanted to have an abortion because I couldn't handle being a mother this way in this situation at this age, living off BS family in a house his dad bought for us to rent, but we never paid a cent, and I was 18, he was 17. Clearly, since we couldn't pay for ourselves, we couldn't have a baby. He wouldn't let me. I said I wanted an abortion, and he said no, guilted me by telling me I was gonna kill a child, and then kept the argument up till I was 20 weeks, and it was too late. I had a kid, and as I thought, he took money from his family, spent it all on Magic the Gathering cards and fast food, and we scraped on by, barely able to feed our son. He then got more violent, cussed the babies crying, was triggering, he is a sociopath. So we were both hit. Imagine seeing a dude hit a 6-month-old kid cuss. It happened behind my back and in front of me, so I left. I took the kid with the full support of his family and my family, got an apartment, and now he is almost 2. The reason I continue to live and strive to succeed in life. I'm 20 now, doing jet testing, and I still live with my son in my apartment. No child support yet. He doesn't have a job yet, and I've been able to feed my son, but sometimes I have to make a loaf of bread last 2 weeks for myself. Still better than my ex.